Hey, what's going on, guys? Gunshed here, and welcome! It is literally the dawn of the new day. I'm on my way to take my 2020 Royal Enfield Himalayan for its first service. Now, it was 3 weeks ago that I got the bike, and I thought because it's going in for its first service, I would do my first review of ownership experience. The first service is due at 300 miles, and prior to that, I have to keep it below 3,000 revs and 40 miles an hour. Yeah, it's been interesting. There's some good points and some bad points, so I try and mix them up a little bit. So, first things to know about the Himalayan. As I say, going for its first service interval is 300 miles. After that, it's every 3,000 miles, so quite close together by modern day standards. Even riding along at 40 miles an hour everywhere in the first 300 miles, I've absolutely adored owning this bike. So first things first, I am 5'6". I am about 8 stone in weight, which is 56 kilos. I'm a fairly short person, and this bike is brilliant. I can get both my feet down firmly even before the suspension is bedded in. Anyone that's owned a new bike will realise that once the suspension beds in, it starts to sit a little bit lower. Now, I hadn't planned on doing this review in these conditions. I was waiting for a little bit more light, but I thought it was a bit special riding off into the sunrise rather than the sunset. You know, lovely red sky, it looks fantastic. I thought it was too good an opportunity to miss. If you want the tech specs, I can put some down in the description. And the basic ones you need to know is the seat height is around 800mm. I will say around because there is a little bit of differentiation in the factory, and it's luck of the draw. You may get a little bit higher, you may get a little bit lower, but you can adjust the preload, adapt it to your weight, which I haven't done just yet. I probably ought to. It's a little bit on the firm side, as I'm sure the camera is bouncing around like mad on this back road. For the majority of the 300 miles, or 275.4 that I've done, it will be 300 by the time I get to the dealer. I've been using roads like this, just little B roads. I've been staying off A roads and things. I think it's a little bit dangerous sitting at 40 miles an hour on an A road on a motorbike. This is the kind of road that the Himalayan is used to. The power. Now, this bike was designed for riding in India, where the roads are terrible. You're lucky if you can do 60 miles an hour in the majority of the country. So you don't need big power, and I think a lot of people think, oh, it needs a 650 or something like that, or it's underpowered. It's not underpowered, it's just the conditions that you ride it in that make it feel or seem underpowered. It's not designed for cruising on a motorway. Perfect amount of power for the type of riding they're designed for. You know, little twisty back roads, bit of touring. They're absolutely fine. It's not the type of bike that if you want to cover massive miles in a day on a motorway, you know, just pinned at 70 miles an hour, is the wrong bike for you. So how have I found the Himalayan? Well, as I say, it's been good and bad. This bike definitely has the smile factor. I've really enjoyed it. Just bimbling along. It has been absolutely fantastic. So first off, my legs, I'm in a nice upright position. The bars are slightly wider than shoulder width for me, which I really like, but they feel quite narrow. Now, I'm comparing this to my V-Strom 650, which I own, other bikes I've ridden. You are aware you're riding a single cylinder. You can feel that single cylinder between your legs, but it's not an overly vibey bike like Royal Enfields have passed. This is absolutely smooth. It has enough vibration to make it feel characterful, but not enough vibration that it causes any discomfort. As I say, you're aware you're riding a single cylinder, which I absolutely love. You know, I bought this bike for its character. The riding position is really comfy. The one thing, and the seat has a nice amount of padding. Some people say it's a little bit soft, but because I'm quite light, I tend to find most seats that people say are soft, perfect, where they say the seats are perfect, I tend to find them a little bit hard. So for me, it's absolutely great. The one thing is, depending on where you sit on the seat, it can tilt you slightly forwards. If you're male, can lead to a rather uncomfortable position but there's lots of things. There's loads of aftermarket seats. They do a touring seat for about £50. Fuel economy, I've been pleasantly surprised. I've actually filled it up for the first time the other day, and during running it's worked out at 103 mpg, which is incredible. Granted, that's during running. Owners on the owners group are saying it's about 80 once it's running and you're riding at normal speeds, but it's hard to get it below 80 even if you rag the hell out of it. It's very basic. This model has ABS, as it legally has to in the UK. Now there is a BS6 coming which meets tightening Indian emissions laws, and that has switchable ABS. Now this seems to have the changed colour display, so it's a blue display or a brightish whitish display compared to the warm orange of before, and it has the shorter side stand of the BS6. I'm pretty sure it also has the better rear brake, because I've ridden the earlier model without those changes, and I definitely have a better rear brake than that model had. Brakes are perfectly adequate for the bike. As I say, you know, I haven't been barreling it into corners because of running, but I've had no issues stopping, and it's not through any lack of bite or anything like that. Corners, lovely. It's a very agile little bike. It'll be interesting to see how it corners when I'm allowed to do a slightly higher pace. Owner's manual, I think, has been done via Google Translate. I noticed when it came to doing chain tension, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You have to put the bike in the centre stand, not on it, and it gives you some chain slack. And now, if you do it to the user manual, the chain slack recommended is 20 to 30mm on the centre stand with the rear wheel off the ground. Now, when you take it off the centre stand and actually sit on it, there is no chain slack, absolutely zero, which is rather disconcerting. So after some googling and stuff like that and speaking to the owners forums, apparently the owner's manual is absolute nonsense. What you're meant to do is have 20 to 30mm when you are sat on the bike in the tightest point on the chain. It completely contradicts the workshop manual. The other thing that the owner's manual is terrible for is it doesn't actually tell you the torque in which to tighten the rear wheel nut. I have scoured it front to back, and I had to download a PDF of the Himalayan workshop manual that the dealers have to find the torque, which is 70 Newton meters. Visibility in the rear mirrors is good. I can see a little bit of my shoulder, but I can see the road clearly behind me. It took a little while for it to get set up, and I noticed with the handguards I had to move the lever slightly to get the mirror in the correct position. The speedo and gauges are all really clear. The one thing I have found is in the colder climates, and this is a known issue with the Himalayan, is there is quite a lot of fog misting up on the speedo. I believe it's to do with the engine heat and any moisture in the speedo creating a difference, which creates moisture. It is a common problem. There is a simple solution in which you basically remove the front off the speedo and drill a few sort of 1.5mm wide holes in the bottom to allow the moisture to come out, and it stops it. I've only had issues when it's been down to about 5 degrees or so. Even my pin lock's starting to mist up this morning. Everything's really clear. Nice little rev gauge, got the speedo, got gear indicator time, outside temperature, which is only accurate when the bike is cold and not switched on. 2 trip meters, it can give us an MPG figure, it's got a compass, nice fuel gauge, and overall I really like the layout of it. It's very simple, the majority of it's analog, which I really like. The suspension, even on these back roads, this is a really bumpy road. Just for context, it is incredibly bumpy. I've used it on a few rides and reviews because it's so bumpy to test suspension, and I'm in complete comfort on the Himalayan. My legs are just bent more than 90 degrees, but not uncomfortably so. It actually feels more spacious than my V-Strom, which has its low seat on. Some people say they get a little bit of turbulence off the screen. Obviously at 40 miles an hour is not really a fair test, but I haven't noticed anything. The screen is adjustable into 2 positions, providing you have an Allen key. Very quickly, I just wanted to show you what the headlights are like. Now, I'm currently on dip beam, and I've got good visibility. You know, it's throwing light quite far ahead. The edge of the light's about at the road signs. I've got a clear view of the road, etc. So that's all good. Full beam, not as good. Now, I don't know if that's because of my headlamp guard that I've fitted, but basically full beam on this bike with the headlamp guard obviously throws more light down right in front of the in front of the front tyre than it does project it up the road. It's actually easier to ride with in low beam. This bike has bags of character and it makes riding it fun. It makes it feel like you're on an adventure. One thing I didn't think was overly good was the rear brake cylinder on pretty much every bike I've ever known has a protective plate to stop your foot hitting the rear brake cylinder, and unfortunately this doesn't come with one, so I bought one from Enfield Accessories, I believe it's called, for about £20, and it's good quality. It's the same sort of colour powder coating as the frame, so yeah, really am pleased with that. And that's the thing, it's just the little refinements on a bike that you could rather want. Now, obviously, if you're after some sort of high-powered, high-specification bike with TFTs and, you know, the ability to cruise on the motorway, this is not the bike for you. It will sit at 70. Sorry, my side stand's very eager to go down, which is actually quite nice. So yeah, this is my 2020 Himalayan. Everything so far absolutely brilliant. I haven't noticed anything. Some of the finishes not quite up to scratch. There's a load of blue stuff coming out here, and there's, where is it, on the side of the engine casing, just down by this lead, there's like some sort of sealant stuff there, which, okay, doesn't look the best, but yeah, just single brake on the front. This is my headlight guard that I was on about, which looks great, but I think may inhibit the headlight a little bit. This is my little heel guard that I bought, which is actually quite a thick piece of metal, and it was literally just 2 bolts, undo that, 2 bolts back in, and it all did up. Very, very nice. Anyway, guys, I shall leave you with that incredible view. Thank you ever so much for watching, and take care.